The sun hung low over Ouagadougou, casting a golden veil across the vibrant capital of Burkina Faso. The city thrummed with life vendors shouted over the clatter of market stalls, their voices mingling with the hum of motorbikes weaving through dusty streets. Women in colorful headscarves balanced baskets of millet and mangoes, while children darted between them, their laughter a fleeting melody against the rhythm of daily struggle. In the heart of this bustling chaos stood the presidential palace, its faded walls adorned with murals of Burkina Faso's revolutionary heroes, a quiet symbol of a nation's enduring spirit. Inside, Ibrahim Traoré sat at a sturdy wooden desk, his fingers sifting through a stack of agricultural reports. At 37, Traoré was a leader who defied the mold of traditional statesmen. His military fatigues, always meticulously pressed, spoke of his past as a soldier, but it was his piercing gaze and measured silence that commanded respect. In just a few years, he had become a beacon of hope for a new Africa, one that rejected the shackles of foreign dependency and embraced the strength of its own people. His youth belied a wisdom forged in hardship, and his resolve had already shaken the foundations of global power. The reports on his desk painted a sobering picture. Burkina Faso's rural farmers, the backbone of the nation, struggled against drought and outdated equipment. Food insecurity loomed, with many villages relying on imports and aid from organizations like USAID to survive lean seasons. Traoré had made self-sufficiency a cornerstone of his presidency, investing in local agriculture to break the cycle of dependency. He dreamed of a Burkina Faso where every family had enough to eat, where the land's bounty belonged to its people, not foreign markets. But the path was fraught. Global trade policies favored wealthy nations, and aid often came with strings that undermined sovereignty. On this particular evening, Traoré was preparing for a national address on food security, a speech meant to rally farmers and unveil new irrigation projects. As he scribbled notes, his chief advisor, Kofi Mensah, entered the room, his face taut with urgency. Kofi, a wiry man with graying hair and a knack for navigating political storms, clutched a tablet. "Mr. President," he said, his voice low, "you need to see this." Traoré looked up, his brow creasing. Kofi tapped the tablet, and a video began to play. It was a clip from a United States television interview featuring Senator J.D. Vance, a rising political star known for his blunt rhetoric. Vance leaned forward, his tone dripping with disdain. "Africa's always begging for our help," he said, his words sharp. "They can't feed themselves, can't grow enough food, so we send US aid to bail them out. It's a waste of American money on a continent that'll never get it together." The room fell silent. Traoré's fingers tightened around his pen, the ink smudging his notes. Kofi paused the video, but Vance's words echoed, each one a barb aimed at Africa's heart. This was not a private remark but a public declaration, broadcast to millions, a dismissal of a continent's potential. Traoré had heard such rhetoric before, Western leaders painting Africa as helpless, a land of endless need. But Vance's scorn, delivered with a smirk, cut deeper, striking at the pride of every farmer who toiled under Burkina Faso's sun. "Who else saw this?" Traoré asked, his voice steady but laced with fire. Kofi swallowed. "It's everywhere, sir. Social media platforms, news outlets, people are furious. The senator's team is trying to spin it as tough love, but it's backfiring." Traoré stood, pacing to the window. Below, a group of women swept the courtyard, their brooms moving in rhythmic arcs. He thought of the farmers in the northern villages, their hands calloused from years of planting rice in parched fields. He thought of the children who went to bed hungry, their dreams stifled by want. Vance's words were not just an insult, they were a challenge, a dare to prove Africa could stand on its own. "This ends now," Traoré said, turning to Kofi. "We will feed our people not with their aid, not with their pity, but with our own rice. And we will show Senator Vance and the world what Africa is capable of." Kofi nodded, but his eyes betrayed concern. Sir, this is ambitious. USAID supplies millions of dollars in food aid across the region. Replacing it with local production will take time, resources, and— Then we start today, Traore interrupted, his voice resolute. Call the agricultural minister. I want a plan by morning. The next day, Traore addressed the nation from the palace courtyard, where journalists and citizens gathered under the shade of ancient baobab trees. A large screen behind him replayed Vance's interview, the senator's words looping for all to hear. The crowd, farmers, students and traders, murmured in anger, their faces reflecting the sting of humiliation. Traore stepped to the podium, his fatigues a stark contrast to the suits of visiting diplomats, his presence commanding silence. Yesterday, he began, his voice calm but charged with conviction. A United States senator called our continent a failure, our people incapable of feeding ourselves. He believes Africa survives only on his nation's charity. But I say to you today, Africa is not defined by his words. Africa is defined by our hands, our land, our will. I am announcing a plan to feed Burkina Faso and beyond with rice grown by our farmers. We will end our reliance on USAID, and we will prove to the world that Africa's strength lies within. The crowd erupted in cheers, but Traore raised a hand, his eyes scanning the faces before him. This is not a response to one man's arrogance, he continued. This is a promise to our children, to our farmers, to our future. We will grow enough rice to feed every mouth, and we will do it ourselves. The speech sent shockwaves across the globe. Social media platforms exploded with hashtags like Traore feeds Africa and No More Aid, as young Africans shared clips of the address alongside images of rural farms. In the United States, news outlets debated Vance's remarks, with some defending his candor and others condemning his insensitivity. The senator issued a statement, doubling down. Africa needs to step up, not lean on us forever. The response only fueled the fire, with protests erupting in African diaspora communities from New York to London. In Burkina Faso, the announcement galvanized the nation. Farmers in the northern regions, where rice paddies dotted the landscape, gathered in village squares, pledging to join Traore's vision. Among them was a young woman named Fatoumata, a 25-year-old farmer from a village called Bama. Fatoumata had lost her father to a drought that devastated their crops, leaving her to support her younger siblings. Her calloused hands and fierce determination made her a leader in her community, and Traore's speech lit a spark in her heart. He believes in us, she told her neighbors, clutching a sack of rice seeds. We can do this. But the plan was audacious. USAID's food aid program supplied thousands of tons of grain annually, dwarfing Burkina Faso's current rice production. Scaling up would require new irrigation systems, modern equipment, and massive coordination, all without foreign funding. Opposition leaders seized the moment, accusing Traore of chasing an impossible dream that would bankrupt the nation. Even some allies expressed doubts, urging him to negotiate with USAID for transitional support. Traore rejected the idea outright. Their aid keeps us on a leash, he told his cabinet, his voice firm. We will break free, or we will not be free at all. He reached out to local experts, including Dr. Aminata Kone, an agronomist who had developed drought-resistant rice varieties. Aminata, a woman in her 40s, with a sharp mind and a passion for sustainable farming, agreed to lead the initiative. We have the land and the people, she told Traore. Give us the tools and we'll feed the continent. But a crisis loomed. That evening, Kofi burst into Traore's office, his face pale. Mr. President, he said, we've got a problem. The irrigation project, it's been sabotaged. Pumps in 3 northern districts were destroyed last night, and we found evidence linking it to a local contractor with ties to a United States aid agency. Traore's heart sank. The irrigation systems were critical to boosting rice yields, and their destruction was no accident. He thought of Fatoumata, of the farmers counting on him, of Vance's mocking words. This was more than sabotage. It was an attempt to derail his vision, to keep Africa dependent. "Who is behind this?" he demanded, his voice low but dangerous. Kofi hesitated. "We're not sure yet, but the contractor's been receiving payments from a shell company linked to USAID's regional office. It could be a rogue agent, or it could go higher." Traore clenched his fists, his mind racing. He couldn't let this stop him. Not now, not ever. "Find the contractor," he said, "and get me proof. We're going to expose this, and we're going to keep going." The sabotage sent ripples of doubt through the nation, with opposition media outlets amplifying fears that Traore's plan was doomed. Farmers in Bama and other villages grew anxious, their trust wavering as news of the destroyed pumps spread. Traore knew he had to act swiftly to restore confidence. He traveled to Bama, arriving at dawn in a dusty pickup truck, his fatigue streaked with the red earth of the north. The villagers gathered, their faces a mix of hope and skepticism, Fatoumata among them. Traore stood on a wooden crate, his voice carrying over the crowd. "I know you're afraid," he said, his eyes meeting theirs. "I know the pumps are gone, and the road feels long. But this is not the end. This is our fight for our land, our food, our dignity. They want us to fail, to beg for their aid. But we will not beg. We will build, and we will win." Fatoumata stepped forward, her voice trembling but firm. "We believe in you, Mr. President," she said, holding up her sack of seeds. "But we need help. Without water, these seeds are just dust." Traore knelt before her, his hands clasping hers. "You will have water," he promised, his voice thick with emotion. "And you will have more than that. You will have a future." The crowd cheered, and Fatoumata's resolve strengthened, her eyes shining with renewed hope. Back in Ouagadougou, Traore threw himself into the investigation. Kofi's team tracked down the contractor, a man named Issouf Diallo, who confessed under questioning. Diallo admitted to sabotaging the pumps, claiming he was paid $10,000 by a United States-based consultant who promised more if the rice project failed. The consultant's emails, recovered from Diallo's phone, revealed a chilling motive: to protect USAID's influence in the region by ensuring Africa remained reliant on aid. Traore faced a choice. Exposing the plot would escalate tensions with the United States, risking economic retaliation. But keeping silent would betray his people, allowing foreign powers to manipulate Burkina Faso's future. He thought of Fatoumata's seeds, of Vance's sneer, of the children who deserved to eat. His decision was clear. "We go public," he told Kofi, his voice unwavering. "But we do it right. We show the world the truth, and we show them our strength." Kofi's investigation uncovered more, a network of payments linking the consultant to a United States lobbying firm with ties to Senator Vance's campaign. The evidence was damning, but Traore knew it wasn't enough to simply expose the plot. He had to deliver results, to prove that Burkina Faso could feed itself without USAID strings. He met with Dr. Aminata, who proposed an ambitious solution: redirecting funds from a cancelled foreign aid contract to repair the pumps and expand rice fields. "It's risky," she warned. "We'll need every farmer, every village, working together. Then we'll rally them," Traore said. "This is our moment." Traore launched a nationwide campaign called Harvest of Pride, calling on farmers, students and volunteers to join the Rice Initiative. He traveled across the north, standing in rice paddies with farmers like Fatoumata, planting seeds and repairing pumps alongside them. His presence, captured in viral videos, inspired thousands to join, from mechanics fixing equipment to students distributing seedlings. In Bama, Fatoumata organized her village, training women to manage irrigation systems and turning her family's small plot into a model farm. The campaign faced relentless challenges. A sudden flood damaged fields in one district, and equipment shortages slowed progress. Opposition leaders continued to snipe, accusing Traore of overpromising. But Traore's resolve held firm. He secured partnerships with African agricultural firms who donated tractors and fertilizers and redirected government funds to buy solar-powered pumps. Dr. Aminata's team distributed her drought-resistant seeds, boosting yields even in harsh conditions. The turning point came when Traore announced a public exposé. In a televised address from Bama, he stood beside Fatoumata, holding up the sabotaged pump's wreckage and the consultant's emails. "This," he declared, "is what they think of us, a continent to be controlled, not empowered. Senator Vance calls us weak, but today we show our strength. We will feed Africa with our rice, and we will do it without their aid." The broadcast was a sensation, trending globally as viewers shared clips of Traore's speech and Fatoumata's determined face. The emails linked to Vance's campaign sparked outrage, with African leaders condemning foreign interference. In the United States, Vance faced a media firestorm, his silence deafening as protests demanded accountability. USAID issued a statement denying involvement, but the damage was done. The world saw Africa's resolve. The rice harvests began to roll in, exceeding expectations. Fields that once yielded barely enough for a village now produced surplus, with Bama's farms leading the way. Traore organized a distribution network, sending rice to food-insecure regions in Burkina Faso and neighboring Mali and Niger. The first shipment, marked "Grown in Africa," arrived in a famine-stricken village where mothers wept as they received sacks stamped with Burkina Faso's flag. The campaign's climax was a ceremony in Bama, where Traore and Fatoumata handed out rice to hundreds of families. The village, once on the brink of despair, buzzed with life-new wells, repaired pumps, and fields green with promise. Traore knelt beside a young boy, handing him a bowl of rice. "This is yours," he said, his voice soft, "grown by your people for your future." The ceremony streamed live, with millions watching as Fatoumata spoke, her voice steady. "We were told we couldn't," she said, holding up a sack of rice. "But with our president we did." The crowd roared, and the image of Traore and Fatoumata standing amid golden fields became an icon of African pride. Months later, the harvest of pride transformed Burkina Faso. Rice production tripled, feeding thousands and reducing reliance on USAID by half. Bama became a hub for agricultural training, with Fatoumata leading workshops for farmers across West Africa. The village's success inspired similar initiatives in Ghana and Senegal as African nations rallied to reclaim their food sovereignty. The scandal surrounding Vance faded, his remarks overshadowed by images of thriving fields and full bellies. Traore returned to Bama for a harvest festival, greeted by a sea of grateful faces. Fatoumata, now a local hero, handed him a woven basket filled with rice, a gift from the community. "You gave us more than food," she said, her eyes glistening. "You gave us hope." Traore accepted the basket, his composure breaking as he wiped a tear. He thought of the sabotaged pumps, of Vance's scorn, of the farmers who had trusted him. He thought of the boy with the bowl, of a future where no child went hungry. As the festival unfolded, he slipped away, standing alone under a starlit sky. The road ahead was long, more fields to plant, more battles to fight, but for now he felt peace, knowing he had kept his promise. The story of the harvest of pride spread far beyond Burkina Faso, a testament to what Africa could achieve when it believed in itself. It became a rallying cry, a reminder that sovereignty was not a gift, but a fight. And though challenges remained, one truth stood firm. Ibrahim Traoré had given his people more than rice. He had given them pride.